What if the fastest way to make someone obsessed with you is to walk away and never look back? That question probably sounds wrong to you right now. It sounds like a game. It sounds like something manipulative people do to hurt others. But stay with me, because the truth is much deeper than that. The truth is not about playing games. The truth is about understanding how the human mind works when it feels safe versus when it feels afraid. And once you understand that, you will never chase anyone again. Not because you become cold, because you become wise. You have felt it before. That painful loop. You give more, they pull away. You try harder, they disappear further. You wonder what you did wrong. You replay every conversation. You change your behavior. You become smaller, quieter, more careful. And still, they leave. That experience is not your fault. It is not because you are not enough. It is because you were using the wrong map. You were trying to navigate their mind with tools that work on healthy people. But an avoidant person does not think like a healthy person. Their mind has different rules, different fears, different triggers, and once you learn those rules, everything changes. Let me give you a promise before we go any deeper. If you read every word of this script until the end, you will walk away with something most people search years for. You will understand exactly why your silence becomes the loudest message they have ever received. You will stop feeling powerless. You will stop waiting by the phone. You will stop losing sleep over someone who made you feel like a burden. And you will learn a psychological principle that works whether they come back or not. That principle is this: your attention is precious. And the moment you treat it that way, the whole world treats it that way too. That is your reward, not a trick to win someone back. A permanent shift in how you see yourself. Now let me take you inside the avoidant mind. Not the version they show on social media, not the cool independent person who claims they don't need anyone, the real version, the one that hides underneath layers of distance and silence and self-protection. An avoidant person learned very young that emotions are dangerous. Maybe they had a parent who punished crying. Maybe they had a caregiver who used love as a reward for good behavior. Maybe they grew up in a house where people yelled, then pretended nothing happened. Whatever the cause, the result is the same. Their brain now associates closeness with threat. When someone tries to get close, their nervous system fires an alarm, not a small alarm, a loud one. The same alarm you would feel if a stranger followed you down a dark street. That is what intimacy feels like to an avoidant, not warmth, danger. So what do? They run, they withdraw. They tell themselves you are too needy. They tell themselves they never really liked you. They tell themselves you are the problem. Those stories protect them from facing a much more painful truth. The truth is that they are terrified of being truly seen, because being seen means someone could reject the real them, and that rejection would shatter the false self they have spent years building. The false self that says, I don't need anyone, I am fine alone. But here is the crack in their armor. That false self is a lie. Every human being needs connection. Every human being craves love. Even avoidance, especially avoidance. They just buried that need so deep that they forgot it exists. Buried underneath work, underneath hobbies, underneath new people, underneath the endless distraction of doing everything except feeling anything. But the need never died. It just waited, and your silence is the only thing strong enough to wake it up. Let me explain why chasing never works. When you chase an avoidant, you trigger their engulfment fear. Engulfment is the fear of being swallowed by another person, of losing yourself, of having no space to breathe. Every text you send feels like a chain to them. Every question about where this is going feels like a cage. Every emotional conversation feels like an attack on their freedom. They do not see your love. They see a trap, and their only instinct is to escape. But here is what most people miss. When you stop chasing, you do not trigger the engulfment fear anymore. You trigger something much older, the abandonment fear, the one they buried alive, the one that whispers, you are going to end up alone. That whisper is quiet at first. A few days of silence, they feel relief. Finally, no pressure. Finally, no one asking for more than they can give. That relief lasts about 3 to 7 days. Sometimes longer if they are very avoidant, but then something shifts. The silence starts to feel different. It stops feeling like peace. It starts feeling like emptiness. They check their phone more often, not because they want to text you, because they want to see if you texted them. They tell themselves they don't care. But they notice you stopped watching their stories. They notice you stopped liking their posts. They notice you are not asking about their day. And that noticing turns into a small crack in their wall. That crack grows every day you remain silent, because their brain is doing something they cannot control. It is recalculating your value. Before your silence, your value was low. You were always there, always available, always waiting. That constant availability told their brain, this person has no other options. This person needs me more than I need them. That calculation made you invisible to their deeper emotions. But now you are not there. Your availability is gone. And the brain hates losing something it took for granted, even if it never appreciated that thing. This is not a game. This is neuroscience. The brain has a system called the attachment system. When you are close and safe, the attachment system stays quiet. When you disappear, the attachment system screams. It screams with anxiety, with fear, with obsession. The avoidant has spent years learning to ignore that scream, but they cannot kill it. They can only distract themselves from it. And distraction runs out. Work ends. The gym closes. Friends go home. And in the quiet of their own room, the scream becomes louder than any distraction. That is when the obsession begins. Not love. Obsession. There is a difference. Love is patient. Love is kind. Obsession is hungry. Obsession is restless. Obsession says, I need to know why they left. I need to prove they still want me. I need to win back what I lost. That obsession is not healthy, but it is real, and it is powerful, and it is the first step toward an avoidant actually feeling something again. Now, let me warn you about something painful. When you first start ignoring an avoidant, you will feel terrible. Your own attachment system will scream at you to reach out. Your mind will make up stories. What if they think I am angry? What if they move on? What if they never speak to me again? Those questions are not wisdom. Those questions are fear, and fear is the worst possible advisor. Do not listen to fear. Listen to the pattern. The pattern says chasing pushed them away. The pattern says silence pulls them closer. The pattern has never lied. Your fear has lied many times. You must understand something crucial. Ignoring an avoidant is not about punishing them. It is not about making them suffer. It is about breaking a cycle that was killing your self-respect. Every time you chased, you lost a piece of yourself. Every time you begged for a crumb of attention, you told yourself that you are not enough on your own. That is the real damage, not their distance, your abandonment of yourself. And silence is the only medicine for that wound, because silence forces you to sit with yourself, to feel your own feelings, to build your own life, to become someone who does not need another person to feel whole. That process is hard. It is lonely at first, but it is also the most important work you will ever do, because whether this avoidant person comes back or not, you will have changed. You will have become someone who values their own peace more than someone else's attention. And that person is irresistible, not just to avoidance, to everyone. Confidence is not loud. Confidence is quiet. Confidence is the person who does not beg, who does not chase, who does not explain themselves 100 times. Confidence is the person who walks away and means it. Let me share a psychological concept called reactance. Reactance is the human need to restore freedom when it is threatened. When you chase an avoidant, they feel their freedom being threatened, so they pull away harder to restore it. That is reactance. But when you ignore them, their freedom is not threatened anymore. In fact, they have all the freedom in the world. So why do they start chasing? Because now their freedom feels empty. And emptiness is a different kind of threat. Reactance works both ways. When you stop threatening their freedom, you stop triggering their escape response. And once the escape response calms down, what is left? The buried need for connection, the buried fear of being alone, the buried truth that they actually miss you. This is the hidden engine of attraction. Distance creates desire. Not always. Not with healthy people. Healthy people do not need games. Healthy people communicate. But avoidants are not healthy in this area. They are wounded, and wounded people need different medicine. The medicine for an avoidant is not more words. They have heard words before. Words feel like pressure. The medicine is space, real space. Space that says, I respect myself enough to walk away. I am not angry. I am not waiting. I am just gone. That medicine terrifies them because it forces them to face the question they have been running from their whole lives. What if I lose someone good because I could not show up? That question is devastating to an avoidant because they know the answer. They know they have lost good people before. They know their pattern. They just never felt the pain of it deeply enough to change. Your silence makes them feel that pain, not because you are cruel, because you stopped protecting them from the consequences of their own behavior. And here is the final piece you need to understand before we move to section 2. Obsession is not the goal. The goal is your freedom. If they become obsessed, that is a side effect of you finally choosing yourself. Do not stay silent just to make them obsessed. Stay silent because you deserve peace. Stay silent because you deserve to be with someone who does not need to lose you to value you. Stay silent because you are done shrinking yourself to fit into someone else's fear. If they come back, let them come back to a person who is stronger than before, not waiting, not desperate, just living. And if they do not come back, let them stay gone, because you will have learned the greatest lesson of all. You do not need anyone to chase you to feel worthy. You are worthy right now. In your silence, in your healing, in your decision to stop begging for love that should have been given freely, that is the reward. That is the truth. That is what you carry with you forever. Now let me take you beneath the surface, beneath the silence you just learned to hold, beneath the confusion you have felt for months. There is an engine running inside every avoidant person, an engine they do not understand themselves, an engine that drives their pull and push, their hot and cold, their near and far. And once you see this engine, their behavior stops being a mystery. It becomes predictable. It becomes understandable. And most importantly, it becomes something you can finally stop taking personally. Every human being carries two opposite fears inside them. The first is the fear of abandonment. That is the fear of being left alone, rejected, forgotten, replaced. The second is the fear of engulfment. That is the fear of being swallowed, controlled, smothered, losing your own identity inside someone else. Most people lean toward one fear more than the other. Anxious people live in the fear of abandonment. They cling, they chase, they need constant reassurance. Avoidant people live in the fear of engulfment. They run, they hide, they need constant space. But here's the part no one tells you. The fear of engulfment is not stronger than the fear of abandonment. It is just louder. It is the voice that screams, "Get away, you are losing yourself." That voice has protected the avoidant for years. It has kept them single. It has kept them detached. It has kept them safe from the messy, unpredictable world of deep emotion. But underneath that loud voice, the fear of abandonment still lives. It is just quiet, buried, frozen in a corner of their mind that they never visit. Your job is not to scream louder than their engulfment fear. Your job is to become so still that their abandonment fear finally wakes up. And silence is the only tool that does that. Not arguments, not logic, not love letters, silence. Let me explain exactly what happens inside their head when you disappear. The first few days, their engulfment fear celebrates. Finally, no pressure. Finally, no one asking, "What are we?" Finally, no emotional demands. They feel light, free, in control. They tell themselves this is what they wanted all along. They tell themselves, "You finally understood." They might even feel a small sense of relief that the drama is over. That is the first stage, relief. But relief never lasts, because the human mind is not designed to live in emptiness. It is designed to seek connection, even avoidance, especially avoidance. So after the relief fades, a new feeling creeps in, curiosity. They start to wonder why you stopped, not because they miss you yet, because your behavior changed. And the human brain is a pattern recognition machine. It notices when something familiar becomes unfamiliar. They notice you stopped watching their stories. They notice you stopped sending good morning texts. They notice the silence where your voice used to be. That curiosity turns into confusion. Confusion is uncomfortable. The brain hates confusion. It wants answers, so they start looking for clues. They check your social media more often. They ask mutual friends about you without making it obvious. They replay your last conversation in their head, looking for the moment you gave up. This is not love yet. This is their brain trying to solve a puzzle. But here is the dangerous part. The more time they spend thinking about you, the more important you become. Attention is a currency, and they are spending more and more of it on you. Now, the engine shifts again. Confusion becomes frustration. Frustration that you are not reacting. Frustration that their usual tricks are not working. Normally, when they pull away, you pull closer. That pattern was predictable, safe, boring even. But now you broke the pattern. And a broken pattern is irritating. It makes them feel out of control. And avoidants hate feeling out of control more than anything, because feeling out of control reminds them of being a child with no power. A child who could not leave, could not fight, could only freeze. That frustration turns into something sharper: anxiety. Yes, anxiety. The very emotion avoidants spend their lives running from. Your silence creates a small crack in their wall, and anxiety leaks through. They start to wonder if you have moved on. They start to imagine you with someone else, someone who laughs at your jokes, someone who holds your hand, someone who gets the version of you that they pushed away. That imagination is torture for them, not because they own you, because their ego cannot stand being replaced. Avoidants are deeply proud, deeply protective of their self-image as the one who does not need anyone, and nothing threatens that image more than you thriving without them. Do you see what is happening? Their fear of engulfment said, "Get away." But now their buried fear of abandonment is whispering, "What if they never come back?" Those two fears are now fighting each other inside their mind. One says, "Stay away." One says, "Go closer." That war is the engine. That war is what creates obsession, because obsession is not peace. Obsession is conflict. It is wanting and not wanting at the same time. It is needing and denying the need. It is the mind spinning in circles, unable to land anywhere. Most people never see this war. They only see the avoidant's cold behavior, the silence, the distance, the shrugs. They think the avoidant feels nothing. Wrong. The avoidant feels too much. That is why they built walls so high. The problem is not that they lack emotions. The problem is that they never learn to regulate emotions. So their only strategy is to run before feelings get too big. Your silence takes away the running option, because you cannot run from someone who is already gone. You can only sit with yourself, and sitting with yourself is the hardest thing for an avoidant to do. Let me give you a deeper psychological layer. Avoidants often come from homes where love was conditional, where they had to earn affection by being good, quiet, successful, undemanding. They learned that asking for too much made love disappear, so they stopped asking. They learned that showing need made people leave, so they stopped showing need. That childhood lesson became an adult rule. I must never need anyone, because needing leads to losing. But here is the tragedy. That rule worked for survival. It kept them safe as children. But as adults, that same rule destroys every chance at real intimacy, because real intimacy requires need. Real intimacy requires vulnerability. Real intimacy requires saying, "I want you close," even when it is scary. The avoidant cannot do that, not because they are bad people, because they are frozen people, frozen in a childhood strategy that stopped working years ago. Your silence does something remarkable. It does not attack their walls, it simply stands outside them, quietly, patiently, without demanding entry. And that quiet presence is new to them. Everyone else either left in anger or begged to come in. You are doing neither. You are just there, not chasing, not leaving, just existing in your own life. And that stillness confuses their walls more than any battering ram ever could, because walls are built to defend against attack. But what do walls do against someone who is not attacking? Eventually they feel unnecessary. Eventually they feel lonely. Eventually they start to crack on their own. This is the hidden engine of attraction, not manipulation, not games, basic human psychology. People want what they cannot control. People value what they might lose. People become obsessed with what remains just out of reach. An avoidant is not special in this way. They are actually more vulnerable to this than most people, because their whole life has been about control, controlling distance, controlling emotions, controlling closeness. Your silence takes away that control. And a person who loses control will do anything to get it back. Now let me warn you about something important. As this engine runs, the avoidant will test you. They will send a small message, a meme, a question about something unimportant, a like on an old post. These are not signs of love. These are fishing expeditions. They are checking to see if you are still waiting. If you reply quickly, with excitement, with relief, the engine stops. The spell breaks. They feel your hunger again, and their engulfment fear wakes up. They pull away again, often harder than before, and you are back to zero. If you stay silent or reply with calm, short, unemotional distance, the engine keeps running. Their fear grows. Their obsession deepens. They start to wonder if they lost you for real. And that wondering is the most powerful force in their psychology, because wondering turns into remembering. Remembering turns into missing. Missing turns into wanting. And wanting turns into action. Not always healthy action, sometimes messy action, but action nonetheless. Here is the truth most coaches will not tell you. The avoidance obsession is not love, at least not at first. It is the activation of a broken attachment system. It is the brain screaming, "I might lose something valuable." That scream feels like love to them because they have felt so little for so long. But you must not confuse their obsession with your worth. Their obsession is about their fear, not your value. You were valuable before they noticed you. You will be valuable after they forget you again. Never tie your self-worth to their obsession. But here's the beautiful part. If you hold your silence long enough, something can shift. The obsession can mature. The fear can soften. They can start to see you not as a threat to their freedom, but as a safe person who respects their space. A safe person who does not cling. A safe person who has their own life. That is the person an avoidant can actually learn to love, not the chaser. The one who walked away and meant it. The one who returned only when it was their choice. The one who never begged. That transformation does not always happen. Sometimes the avoidant runs forever. Sometimes they come back, then leave again. Sometimes they never come back at all. You must be ready for all outcomes. But regardless of what they do, you have already won. Because you stopped chasing. You stopped shrinking. You stopped abandoning yourself. And that victory is permanent. No one can take it from you. Not their silence. Not their distance. Not their new partner. Nothing. The hidden engine of attraction is real. It works, but it works best when you are not trying to make it work. It works when you are genuinely, deeply, unshakably focused on your own life, your work, your health, your friendships, your purpose. That focus is what makes your silence powerful. Without it, your silence is just waiting in disguise. And waiting feels different to an avoidant. Waiting feels hungry. Waiting feels desperate. Waiting feels like chasing, but quieter. Do not wait. Live. Live so fully that your silence is not a tactic. It is a natural result of being too busy to beg. Let me close section 2 with a final image. You have been holding a door open for someone who kept walking away. You held it so long your arms got tired. Now you let the door close, not slammed, not locked, just closed. And suddenly, the person who was walking away turns around. They notice the door is closed. They feel the air change. They realize they cannot just walk back in anytime they want. That realization changes everything. Not because you are cruel, because you finally stopped holding a door for someone who never said thank you.